Self-Management Fund, Resilience, Recovery and Development. What have we learned?
Hi, my name is Lyndsay Macadam and I'm the Acting CEO of SWAN, the Scottish Women's Autism Network. We are running an online information and inquiry service with our Self-Management Fund Builder Grant. SWAN is an autistic-led charity, so I'm autistic, all of our staff and volunteers are autistic, and the majority of our trustees. We have been a charity since 2012, so this is our 10th year this year, and we provide a range of services by and for autistic women and girls and non-binary people across Scotland, as well as training and information sessions to increase understanding and visibility of autistic women. We've currently got over 600 women in our network, and everything that we do is informed and driven by the lived experiences of autistic women. We receive a lot of inquiries by email, through our very active closed Facebook group, telephone calls, etc. And we didn't really have a dedicated resource, or enough dedicated resource anyway, to respond to the growing number of inquiries that we've been receiving. We do have volunteers, but they were very busy already running our local meetup groups and doing what they could to administer the Facebook group. It currently has over 600 members, so it's quite a big job. And we really wanted to be able to meet the increasing demand for information and support and resources, as well as make sure that we're looking after the well-being of our volunteers. So we applied to the Self-Management Fund to employ a part-time member of staff to set up a structured service, support autistic volunteers, respond to inquiries, produce information resources, and support people to access our SWAN services. As well as accessing the autistic community and peer support that we offer through SWAN, signposting to other services and support. And also really it's an opportunity for us to gather information to inform the provision and development of SWAN services in response to the type of inquiries that we were receiving. So what have we learned through the project? Really, this work has confirmed a lot of what we already knew anecdotally, but we're now able to gather data on the nature of the inquiries that we're getting and the experiences of autistic women in Scotland, as well as having much more capacity to respond to those inquiries. Many autistic women are really struggling to manage their mental and physical health and their sense of self as autistic people, largely as due to a lack of understanding of autistic women. The diagnostic process is not really being designed to diagnose women. A lot of women are late diagnosed. A lot of the women that come to SWAN are not being diagnosed until their 30s, 40s, even 70s or 80s. That is changing for autistic girls now, but certainly the older cohorts, people are really living well into adulthood without knowing that they're autistic, just sort of thinking there's something different about them, maybe even that there's something wrong with them, that they're not quite like other people. And that there's a real lack of sort of visible role models for autistic women to identify with. And really, even for autistic men, often only quite unhelpful stereotypes in terms of the media anyway. And this means as well that there's not that much support for adult women, and not necessarily that much good quality information designed specifically for autistic women. Can be a little bit of a minefield if you think that you're autistic or you've just been diagnosed, to try to kind of wade through what's out there and find something that you know is going to be of good quality and aimed at you. So through our online information and inquiry service, autistic women are able to communicate with other autistic women, with someone else who understands what they're experiencing, and they can access information that they know has been written by and informed by the lived experience of other autistic women. The majority of the inquiries we receive, I'd say, are related to accessing diagnosis, to managing mental health and well-being, and to understanding and developing your sense of your own autistic identity. And these inquiries are coming from women who are autistic, who may have been diagnosed or trying to access diagnosis, who have self-diagnosed, who are maybe wondering if they might be, starting to wonder if they might be autistic, And we also get a lot of inquiries from generally very worried parents of young autistic women who are experiencing quite poor mental health. So if I go through some of those main issues, accessing diagnosis really is a primary issue that many autistic women are struggling with. You can see from the slides there's a number of barriers to accessing diagnosis. Ultimately, there's still not enough understanding of autistic women, not enough research being done, and diagnostic criteria that are being used are still those that were designed to diagnose young autistic boys. So they're not necessarily suited to and picking up on how autism presents in people of other genders. And also, as awareness does grow, as more women realise they're autistic, as more people in general perhaps realise, as our knowledge and understanding of autism grows, there's not the capacity and services to diagnose everybody. So a combination of sometimes being turned away because you're assumed not to be autistic, being turned away because you're assumed not to need support because it's not necessarily always visible in autistic women. They're very good at, or we're very good at managing and fitting in and masking, and therefore not necessarily appearing to need support on the surface. And sometimes there just isn't the capacity to get everyone through those diagnostic pathways. So people are coming to us seeking information on how to access a diagnosis, looking for support if they can't access a diagnosis or they don't get the diagnosis that they were looking for. And also once they do get diagnosed, looking for some support, looking to meet other people, looking to start to understand themselves a bit better. Whilst a lot of people are okay with self-diagnosis, and at SWAN we do not differentiate between a formal diagnosis and self-diagnosis, we see them as being equally valid, particularly due to the barriers that are there in accessing diagnosis. It does mean that if you can't get a formal diagnosis, you may have an element, I suppose, of imposter syndrome, of thinking, well, am I really autistic? You may not be believed when you try to tell other people. You may think that you can't be autistic because you don't fit into the view, the image that you have of an autistic person, or be told that you can't be autistic because of who you are. There are a lot of stereotypes out there that suggest that if you can make eye contact, if you have friends, if you understand metaphors, you can't possibly be autistic. And of course, none of that is actually true. Some of it might be true some of the time, but they're quite big generalizations. And of course, if you don't get that understanding of yourself, you can't develop your sense of self as an autistic person. You can't start to understand what's affecting you and how to manage that. And once you learn that, you're then able to gain an understanding of yourself. You're able to gain the tools that you need to self-manage where you do have challenges. So how to understand fatigue, how to understand autistic burnout, sensory overwhelm, social overwhelm, and how to self-regulate in those situations so that you maybe avoid them or you can recover more quickly. Identifying tools and ways to cope if you are in situations that are impacting negatively on you or making things a bit difficult, developing that insight and language and confidence to express your needs, to be self-assured about who you are, to meet your own needs and to ask for them to be met in other situations. So accessing information and support from other autistic women helps to gain these tools and to gain that reassurance and that validation and the confidence that goes with that, to understand who you are and then be able to self-manage. Thinking about mental health and well-being, living for years, as I've said, without knowing you're autistic has a huge impact on your mental health. Years and years of trying to fit in, pretending to be something that you're not, or trying to be something that you think you should be, often pushing yourself into burnout, pushing yourself in situations that aren't really helpful for you, that don't fit the way that you navigate the world. These mental health issues are not autism. Autism is not a mental health condition. The mental health issues that we experience often are a result of being autistic in a non-autistic world. So we can experience a lot of anxiety, a lot of trauma caused by minority stress, caused by sensory and social overload, low self-esteem, those years of feeling not quite right, not good enough, guilt and shame around maybe not being able to do things in the way that other people expect you to do them, like things looking different, socialising in a different way, just not being quite like everyone else. And of course, we shouldn't be trying to be like everybody else. But that accumulative effect often ends up causing an awful lot of problems in all areas of our lives, struggles to find and maintain employment, periods of absence from work, ending up needing to seek therapy, take medications, access services and support, which often are not autism informed, so they're not always the right kind of help for us. Service design, of course, is usually based on the assumption that everybody is neurotypical. So they doesn't necessarily have the enough understanding or experience of working with autistic people. And what works well for a neurotypical person and what works well for an autistic person can often be quite different. And what success looks like or what improvement looks like can be quite different. So there may be things which we would see to be helpful to a neurotypical person, perhaps socialising more, spending time with friends, that actually might not be the right thing. Maybe getting to actually have a bit of time on your own, having that downtime can be more helpful for an autistic person. And as you can see from the examples on the screen of the type of inquiries that we're getting, without that opportunity to access the right information and the right support, so many autistic women are really struggling unnecessarily. And it's not being autistic that's the issue, it's the misconceptions, the lack of understanding, and the not finding the right support, the lack of access to community and to your peers so that you can develop a positive sense of self, be around other people that are like you. So we know there's a lack of information or reliable information out there, especially about autistic women. Very few services for autistic adults, and particularly if you don't also have a learning disability in addition to being autistic. And this means that autistic women do have to self-manage. So they are seeking information and peer support and community. And that's what we can provide at SWAN to prevent them from getting into crisis, to access the information and the tools that we need to be empowered. People have a lot of questions and we have a lot of answers. Autistic people love information. We also like researching and so we have a lot of questions, but we also are very good at finding the answers. So we're very well placed to respond, to gather that information together, to collate and organise it. It's using our autistic strengths. Discovering that you're autistic can be very empowering. When a neurotypical person tells an autistic person that they're autistic or an autistic person discloses that they're autistic, there's often a moment of, oh dear, oh that how awful, I'm sure you can't be, or don't worry. And at SWAN, when an autistic person accesses a diagnosis, usually they've been sort of waiting for that for quite a long time. Everybody's so pleased for them and they say, oh, that's brilliant, well done, that's so great, now you know. And so it can be very empowering to understand who you are and to be able to move forward within that. But it can also make you feel very vulnerable, particularly at the beginning. So there needs to be trust. There needs to be trust in the information that you're getting and in the person that's providing it to you. And when women come to SWAN, they want to speak to somebody who understands them. They don't want to have to explain everything to a non-autistic person. They want someone who just gets what it actually means to be autistic, how our brains work, how we experience the world, the things that we don't always tell other people. And speak to somebody that doesn't make them feel othered, doesn't make them feel stigmatized. And of course, that's not to say that non-autistic people providing these services are doing any of that on purpose, but no matter how good your intentions, there's often a bit of a difference if somebody isn't having the same type of experiences as you. What we need as autistic people is to know that we're not broken neurotypical people, we're perfectly whole autistic people. And once you speak to other autistic people, you start to realise that you're perfectly normal. There's loads of people out there just like you and that it's totally okay. It's like as if you've been a Mac computer trying to be a PC all of your life, and now you can just be a Mac and it's all good. Well, it's not all good, but life's never all good, but it's a lot better. What it means is you then have the opportunity to learn how to manage the challenges of navigating the world as a neurominority. You have a safe place to talk about your experiences, to ask for advice, to offload. On our Facebook group, I see so many people people sort of, doing does anybody else ever feel this, or have you ever experienced that? This might sound a bit strange, but this is what I think. And then people will respond saying, oh, me too. Yeah, I always do that. I feel that all the time. I thought I was the only one. And suddenly that freedom is there to start to open up, to talk about yourself freely, and to open up to be yourself in the world. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Alliance for awarding us this grant and enabling us to do this work. I've included some comments here that we've had recently from service users which demonstrate the impact that the work is having. These are unsolicited responses from people who are relieved, happy, delighted to get to speak to another autistic person, to hear somebody saying, I understand that, I can relate to that, to get their questions answered and to access the information that they need. And in addition to that direct delivery, I think it's important also to recognise that there's a legacy of growth and empowerment within the community that comes from this work. As we all move through our journeys of discovering that we're autistic and exploring that identity, we're able to pass that knowledge and that experience that we gather within the community along, so we all can contribute to making that journey smoother for one another, and we build community capacity to self-manage. Please contact us if you would like to know more. Our contact details are all here. If you're autistic or you think you might be, and you'd like to find out how to access SWAN services, if you'd like to volunteer on the Information Inquiry Project, if you are not autistic, or you are, but you would like to access training in your workplace, for example, or you would like to support our work. We're also looking for trustees, autistic and non. We have a majority autistic board, but we believe in diversity, and we like to have a good mix of skills and neurotypes on our board to join us as we start the next 10 years of our SWAN journey. You can follow us on social media, you can get in touch by email. We're in the process of developing our website so that we're able to include a lot of the information that we're generating through this project there as resources which can be downloaded. And we offer a range of services for autistic women. Our network is reaching hundreds of autistic women across Scotland, so it really is a great place to come and meet other people and know that you're going to be in good company with those that understand you and can relate to you.